This is On Hand, a podcast answering your questions about the things that make Michigan unique. I'm producer Michelle Jokish-Bolo. In last week's episode, we dug into why people in Michigan say "oh." And we found out that "oh" probably comes from immigrants who came from Europe to the Midwest long before Midwesternisms were established.
This really does seem to be the case of an American regionalism that started here pretty shortly after immigration and sort of stayed strong as a marker of regional identity.
And the word "ope" really gets to the heart of how we speak in Michigan and our accent. And we heard from some listeners who said our unique way of talking had landed them in some debates. Today, the Michigan accent in its full glory.
My name is Sue Merritt. I live in Melvindale now. So I grew up in Michigan. When I was 25, I moved to California, where I went to school. And so I lived with people that were around 18 to 25 years old. And they made fun of my accent. Sometimes they would just interrupt me and say, "Oh, where are you from?" And so I started to work on losing my accent and gaining theirs. So I lived there for 10 years, and I think I thought I dropped my accent, except I could never say the word car without somebody giggling, repeating it, or asking me again, where are you from? You have an accent. So I always said auto.
So I guess, how do they say car?
I never figured that out, but I always tried to think of it as spelled like C-O-U-R.
Core?
Yeah, something more like that.
Interesting.
My son said that my accent has something. He used the word borrow, only he said that we say it more like burrow. Let me borrow your pen.
Interesting. I mean, I certainly say borrow, but...
Yeah, I say borrow too.
Yeah, see? I don't know. They must be wrong.
They're wrong and they're exaggerating.
Did you know that you have an accent before people called it out? I mean, when did you first realize Michigan had an accent?
Yeah, I didn't know. I thought we spoke the same way that the national news program announcers talk.
We begin with that breaking news in San Francisco.
In the heart of winter, and boy, it's going to feel every bit like that over the course of the next week.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for the News 4 Rundown.
So I thought we just had no accent, and they did. Anybody else did.
So I'm hearing you say that people would make fun of you when they heard you speak. Do you remember what kind of things would they say? Did you feel bad?
No. Well, I laugh at myself all the time, so I didn't feel bad at all. But I did start to really notice what was it that was different. And I noticed some things like we dropped the ending G from our words. Swing, we don't say the G. And swinging, there's two of those in there. We don't say that. We say swinging. We say TA instead of TO quite often. So we go to the store, not to the store.
What were some things that, they would pronounce differently? I know you mentioned in the message that they would say DULL different.
Yeah, my boyfriend called me a real doll. And I thought, that's not nice. I realized he was calling me a doll. Another thing I remember is that my daughter, who was 5 when we moved out west, she called them crayons. And her kindergarten, first grade teacher didn't know what she was talking about till she figured out it was crayon.
Why do you think you tried so hard to lose your Michigan accent?
Well, one of my dear friends was telling me, she told me this so that, to improve my stature, she said, "You sound like a hick."
Oh, wow. Okay.
I didn't want to sound like a hick, so that's why I worked on it.
What would you tell your younger self that just moved to California and was working so hard to change their Michigan accent? What would you tell them now?
I'd say work more on grammar than accent.
We also heard from this listener whose name is itself a word twisted up in our accent.
My name is Laurie Van Ark, Laurie. And of course, an alternate spelling, as you know, is with Lori. And I've always said the two names the same, so people ask me, how do you spell it? So I say Laurie. And the people in Cincinnati would tell me, well, you're saying your name wrong. It should be Laurie.
And what would you say to that? I mean, it's your name.
Well, that's what I would tell them. I say, well, no, I pronounce it Laurie. That's, I'm from Michigan. That's how we say it. So I'm also a singer. I've sung in choirs, and I will often hear from directors to not use the Midwestern twang when you sing. But I don't think of that as they call it a Midwestern, but I don't think of that as being Michigan. I don't think I speak with a twang, and I sure don't sing with one. But I grew up here, so the way we speak is the way you're supposed to speak, to my ear. To me, Michigan is pure English, of course. But that's because I grew up here.
Oh, cute. Let me sneak right past you. Oh, do you mind if I ask you? Oh, did you want the last slice? Oh.
That's right, Laurie. Be proud of where you're from. Thank you to other folks who wrote in to tell us their Michigan stories, like Tammy Long, who said, take your example of reaching across a fellow shopper at Meijer or standing in their way in the aisle. Person 1, the presumptive offender, declares, oh, sorry. Person 2, the presumptive victim, always responds with, no, you're good. This is pretty highly predictable and consistent. I've had and heard this exchange everywhere in Michigan. What's also funny, it's often the case that the person who apologizes is the one who was transgressed. For example, if a fellow shopper runs over my foot with their cart or bumps me with their elbow, I will absolutely apologize with, oh, sorry. So be like Sue and Laurie and Tammy and share your own questions and stories with us. We'd love to hear them. There's a link to the story submission form in the show notes. The form will tell you all about what stories we're looking for next. And if you'd prefer to call or email, I'll leave our phone number and address in the show notes just for you. Thank you for listening. We'll be back in your feeds next week. See ya.